What if you just don't have all the story yet to form the conclusion that you think that God let you down? A lot of times you can say things like, God's never let me down and I don't expect him to start with you, and that's true. But if somebody's been through a whole lot of stuff, they might bring up everything that they've been through and where they don't think that they've seen God. I know that. I've seen that often. But here's the thing, is you may not have all the story yet. When I sell a book to a publisher, do you know what happens? I write about 1/8 of that book. I sign a contract. I finish that book. That book has a set day that it'll be turned in. And the way that I start the book may not be the way I finish the book, even if I plot out in my mind that I think that's how it's going to go. God has the ability to, as the Bible said, be what we call the author and the finisher. And the finisher translates to the editor. The author writes a story, and the editor comes in and makes it perfect. And in human sense, it just means it makes it better. In a God sense, it means he writes it and then he makes it as perfect as it could ever be. Perfect. Like God perfect. It's very different than author perfect and editor perfect here on earth. And by the time I finished writing a story, sometimes my character will have evolved so much that it don't make sense anymore. For what it looked like I thought would be a good ending, and then the ending that I actually turn out with is 1,000,000 times better. 1,000,000 times. And when you start out writing a thing thinking that you're going one way, as we do as human people, of course it looks like it's going to go there, but as your life evolves, sometimes your character evolves based on what you're going through or based on how you're feeling that day. And then you watch when you start throwing all the other characters in there. You're like, you know what? That don't make sense for Becky to build that cookie shop. No, because she always wanted to be an artist. And all of a sudden, everything goes totally different. But it's way better. It's more poetic. And maybe you just dropped a few hints about what she'd do at night. Like painting her room. Worry about how she'd get the money for the cookie shop. And maybe she didn't really want this daggum cookie shop. She wanted to paint. So, maybe tonight you could think like an author. Maybe instead of thinking about all the things that didn't go your way, you could just ask yourself if you just don't have all the pages to the manuscript yet. Because it never goes the way that I planned at 1/8 of a manuscript. But it always ends up really good in the end. And maybe you should think about that. God's the author and the finisher. And your story is going to be good. And he's never let me down. And I don't expect him to start with you. And you don't have to believe me today. But maybe you could just give God a little time to finish your story. Because he's not going to give you an ending that sucks. Because when you really love to write, you want to surprise your audience. That's one of my main goals when I'm writing something, is to be honest, to be authentic, and to surprise my audience. I don't want you to know every time what I'm going to say. That's boring. God's going to come through. Just give him time. Full circles are way better than rough drafts. I